Greetings, everybody. Redbeard here. Going to be beginning what I hope will become a series anyway, that I'm going to be calling Rasslin with Redbeard. Notice I use the word Rasslin, not wrestling. It's because here in the South it's typically Rasslin, even though it's wrestling everywhere else. My intention with this series is to try and convey my experiences when I go to these little independent shows, and maybe even some bigger shows beyond that. We have a good bit of independent wrestling around the Southeast right now. Some of it good, some of it not so good, some of it in between. But point of it is, wrestling's kind of becoming a little bit more commonplace in terms of what you see on the weekends from Friday to Sunday. It really died down there for a while, but it's become more interesting, and we've got a lot of good talent around this area. We've got guys who are getting attention from WWE, from TNA, from companies all around the world. We've got some guys who've been to Japan, England, various other tours. The big part of this that I hope to do, though, like I mentioned, is to convey my experiences in going to these shows. Not only the actual wrestling experience, but the venues, foods, beverages, getting to and from, the towns they're in, whole 9 yards. There's a lot of people who do various things in regard to talking about wrestling. The point of view that you see me from right now, for those of you who are familiar with Kevin Steen, I'm sure you've seen Kevin Steen's Weekend Escapades if you're at all paying attention to his YouTube show, but this particular angle should look familiar to those of you who watch his show. And I'll be honest in saying that I'm drawing inspiration from him and from people like Colt Cabana, and even someone like, I'll go ahead and throw his name out there, Kirby Mack, who's done his own thing in terms of talking about wrestling, personal experiences thereof, and just really giving a sense for what these shows are like. A lot of people have talked about, the insider stuff, things that go on behind the scenes. That's not really what I'm interested in. This is more about the actual day-to-day, going to shows, getting the fan perspective. I don't think a whole lot of people have done that. If they have, I haven't seen it, put it that way. And I hope it turns out well. And this is not going to be a snarky type of thing either. I know that if you read my Twitter, and if you see some of the stuff that I tend to write from time to time, you know that I'm not always the kindest of guys when it comes to saying, great things about wrestling and about what I've seen. And it doesn't matter if it's WWE, TNA, whoever else. But that's not what I intend to do here, just because I think there's enough snark on the internet when it comes to wrestling. I think you've got enough people who claim to be smart when it comes to what goes on behind the scenes with wrestling, but I think they mean well, but I think they mean to convey what's wrong with wrestling, but they don't have any way of trying to fix it, so it comes off as complaining, and it gets old. It's gotten old even to me, but suffice to say, that's not what I plan to do here. I want to keep this positive. I want to keep this as something that people will watch and enjoy, because the ultimate goal here is to try and do my part to promote. I hate to use that P word in relation to wrestling, but to promote these companies, to promote these wrestlers, because any way we can work as a community of wrestling fans, of promotions, whole 9 yards, to try and better the industry, or some people don't want to call it an industry, but to better wrestling. It's going to be a big part of getting it back to where it can be, because things have fell off for a number of years there, but they're getting better. And in talking about guys, talking about promotions, talking about girls, can't leave out the women. That's how we get their names out there. That's how we make people aware of these promotions. If we're not doing that as fans, as promotions, then we're kind of not doing our jobs in trying to rekindle the fire of wrestling. Wrestling, if you've watched wrestling at all, if you've followed it, you know that at one point in time that it was a big thing in this part of the world especially. And it's not anymore. You have these small shows like this, WWE or TNA might come around once or twice a year, and that's it. So we got to do our jobs. We got to do what we can. If we ever want wrestling to be as big as it once was, we got to get out there and we got to beat the bushes. We got to do stuff like this. We got to make sure people know what's out there and that people know what's available. Because, granted, if it's bad, I'm going to say it's bad. But if it's good and if it's worth paying attention to, then we need to make sure people are aware of it. So that's it. I'm here. Today is Sunday, March 30th. Is that what day it is? Yes, March 30th. Didn't realize what day it was there for a minute. But Sunday, March 30th, here in Cayce, South Carolina, which Cayce, if you didn't know, is right beside Columbia. Might as well even call it Columbia. This is WrestleForce Presents Unleashed. This is the April event for WrestleForce. WrestleForce is one of, I think we've probably got, in terms of consistently running promotions, 4 or 5 in the state of South Carolina, between, let's see, Trans-South and Union, Old School Championship Wrestling down in the Low Country, WrestleForce here in Columbia, Champions with Attitudes in Orangeburg, American Pro Wrestling up in Spartanburg, and Action Packed Wrestling in Chester. So that might be 6. But those are the ones that I'm aware of. There may be 1 or 2 others that just slip my mind or that really may not even be worth mentioning. But at any rate, WrestleForce does shows about once a month in this area. They have a decent following. They draw a decent number of people. You're talking about anywhere between maybe 20 to a couple hundred, depending on what the card is. Here this evening at a venue like this, you've got enough people to where, enough seating to where it could be a pretty crowded house. But the card is interesting this evening. You got a couple of guys on here who are really worthy of note. The main event especially should be quite nice. It is a match for the WrestleForce Championship featuring current champion Caleb Konley, and he's going to be taking on former champion Cedric Alexander, which, for my money, that's a match that you could put on just about any card and have it be worth driving to see, just because I know what those two guys are capable of and I know what they can do. And if you don't, check them out. Cedric is with ROH, and Caleb does quite a few events with Combat Zone. I know he's done some stuff with Full Impact Pro and Dragon Gate and a few others, so he's getting out there quite a bit as well. But they're in the main event tonight. Looking forward to that one. You've got the Bravado Brothers, Harlem and Lancelot, coming in to challenge the current WrestleForce Tag Team Champions in the form of the Love-Hate Machine, which is John Schuyler and Stephen Walters. That match is worthy of note for the fact that Stephen Walters here recently has been signed to a WWE developmental contract, and within the next little bit here is going to be reporting down to Orlando for his assignment with NXT. So that's exciting. It's good to know, people can say what they want about a guy like Stephen, but it's good to know that people are actually getting signed into this territory, because that seems like such a huge thing, the concept of working for WWE, but to know that people are still getting jobs there who are in this area and who've worked hard and earned it, that's a good thing. It's a good thing for everybody. But those 2 matches are up here. Other guys on the card, you got Brady Pierce, Jaxson James, Anthony Henry, a handful of others. But those are the main ones that get primary attention around here. They've got a guy debuting, I think he's been in OSCW before, Old School Championship Wrestling, that I'd mentioned previously, down in the Low Country in Charleston, Mount Pleasant area. He calls himself Big Hoss. If it's the guy I think it is, he's in the area of about 400 pounds, but he's about as wide in terms of shoulder to shoulder as he is tall. Pretty big guy. Not too sold on his wrestling ability, but when it comes to wrestling, you've got people who are physical specimens, who are attractions because of the way they look, and you got people who are attractions because of the way they actually wrestle. So there's that. I almost forgot. Zane Riley's supposed to be here. Zane, if you've not looked up Zane, if you Google Zane Riley, you're going to see some weird things. But Google Zane Riley wrestler or something along those lines. I've got a match of his that was recorded at WrestleForce's previous event where he took on Eric Bradford. Check that out and check Zane's stuff out. Zane is not the most polished guy in the world in terms of the way he looks, but in terms of comedy in wrestling, you're not going to find too many people who do it better than him. He's just a real treat to watch. And I challenge you to watch one of his matches and not enjoy yourself. You're going to laugh. If you don't, up your Prozac because something's wrong with you. But I think that's about it in terms of the card. Getting on towards 10 minutes of talking here, but I knew this was going to be a little bit long in terms of introducing things. One last thing I'll say is that the venue here this evening is it's a bar. Yeah, it's a bar. This is a Sunday, and I'm going to a wrestling show in a bar. I'll say this in closing. I don't dislike bars. Spent plenty of time in there whenever I was in college and whatnot. But when it comes to wrestling, I think you kind of do yourself a disservice from having a show in a bar. Reason being, wrestling should be a family-oriented type of thing. And when you have a show in a bar, you eliminate a lot of the family emphasis of that. Now, I'm not saying that you can't bring a kid to the show because you'll see children in here. But even so, when you hang a poster somewhere and it says The Hanger in Cayce, and then some mom or dad goes and looks up The Hanger because they got a kid who's into wrestling and they find out it's a bar, they're not going to come to the show. For that matter, they're not going to come to your shows in the future either because they're going to say, oh, that's that company that had a show at a bar. It just is what it is. You know, it's perception. That said, I'm glad they're having a show, period. I just kind of wish, like I mentioned, that it was somewhere other than a bar. But regardless, we're here. We're going to have a good time. I would hope that the parking situation would improve here a little bit because there's not a whole lot of parking. And as you can tell, I'm sitting in my truck right now and I'm holding my camera at an angle that's a little awkward because of the fact that I'm on a hill. This is the actual grade that I would be sitting at if I was holding the camera steady, but you can kind of tell that we're all jammed in here. But at any rate, looking forward to getting into this. I know I'm talking incessantly here, but this is the intro video, and I promise I'm not going to talk this much anymore ever again unless I feel like I need to, which shouldn't be the case. At any rate, this is it. Rasslin with Redbeard, number 1. WrestleForce KCSC. Here we go. In the venue now, and I've got two of the more prolific wrestling fans that I know of recent respects anyway. On my left here I have Billy, and to my right we have K-Dog, otherwise known as Kevin. Good to have you guys on the program here. What are your expectations for the show here this evening? Billy, we'll start with you.
I just love seeing all the new talent that's coming in, you know, between Jaxson James, not sure exactly if Anthony Henry's going to be here, but Caleb Konley, Zane Riley. I mean, just some of the top-notch talent that the Carolinas have been able to produce. So I'm really looking forward to seeing them. You know, these are guys like Stephen Walters, who is currently heading up to NXT. John Schuyler's going to be in the Super 8 tournament. I mean, to have that local and to be able to see these guys come from, you know, see where they come from and where they can possibly go is unbelievable.
Yep. It's good to know people are getting signed in this area.
Yeah.
The WWE contract still. That's good stuff. Okay, Dog, what about you? What are you looking forward to?
I'm just looking forward to the whole show. Like he said, I do believe Anthony Henry is going to be here, and he goes by Mr. Match of the Night, and I stand by that. He puts on a great match every time I see him. So I'm very interested to see who he fights. And there's supposed to be a debut. I'm not sure if it's a rookie, but his name is Josh Powers. I read on the Facebook page, so I'm looking forward to see what he can bring. And Bob Keller's mystery partner. Everybody wants to know who that's going to be.
I think everybody have an idea there of who that's going to wind up being. But
right. And Cedric Alexander, watch him on Ring of Honor every week now that Columbia gets it. So he's always a 5-star match. So just look forward to the whole show.
Cedric is one of those guys that you can look forward to getting a 4 or 5-star match out of almost any time he's out there.
Yeah.
It's interesting when you look back at the fact that you got Cedric and Caleb here this evening. The fact that they were once in 704 together as a tag team. Now you got these two guys who are challenging one another
for the belt. Yep. That's right.
And the last few matches, especially what he's had with Cayce Stevens for the WrestleForce heavyweight title, have been unbelievable.
Yep.
Just the fast pace that he does, the style that he works. He's definitely, I would call a gem, in the Carolinas.
Oh yes. So what are you guys' impressions of the venue here? Now we're at the illustrious hangar in Cayce, South Carolina here. What are your thoughts on where we are?
You mean the WrestleForce Arena?
Oh yeah.
I love it. I think it's great. It's a great intimate setting. It's convenient. It's a good staff. Everybody's friendly. Everybody works hard to put on the best possible show. I love it. I think it's the ideal place to have wrestling. I really do.
Do you think it suffers somewhat because of the fact that it is a bar, or do you think that people come regardless of the fact that it's?
I think the fact that it's a bar is a draw.
Really?
A lot of these people, want to drink and watch wrestling.
That's true.
But the downside is it is kind of tight in here, crowded.
I'm going to do a quick pan across to see.
Yes.
You can see what Kevin's talking about there. But, it's like you say, it is pretty packed in here, but, you have the allure of it being a bar. But I almost am hesitant to, I want to say it's a great spot, but I'm not, that in love with the bar atmosphere, because I think that you kind of lose some of the fan base because you got the family side of things, where you're not going to have a mom or a dad say, all right, let's go to a bar on a Sunday night and watch wrestling. But, I see both sides of the coin there, though.
That's where the experience comes in, to come and see what it's like. Because if you go with a preconceived notion of what it would be like, maybe it would be an attraction. But I think that for them to come in and see the atmosphere, and to see that even though it isn't a bar, they try to make it accommodating for the kids.
That's true.
There is a lot of kids around here. I've already seen, just since I've been here, a lot of kids.
Case in point.
My son, he made it. I don't know where he came from, but he showed up.
All right, well, I think we got some good matches on the card here, and we've got our favorites that we're looking forward to, and we'll see how it goes here. But I think we're ready to go, and we're about 5 minutes away from bell time, so we'll be back at intermission with an update. Appreciate it, fellas. All right, we're a majority of the way through WrestleForce. We got one match left, and that's the main event. What do you guys think so far?
I think it's been a great show. Everybody's
now, ladies and gentlemen, Juggernaut John Malice is going to draw the tickets.
2 out of 3 falls. Bravado.
So if you win, thank you.
Tag team titles.
And if you don't win, remember, Juggernaut John Malice through the
crowd's been into it all night. I'm really impressed with everybody that's come through. And like he said, the tag team match was unbelievable. We got new tag team champs.
Ticket is
and Skyler, super kick.
710.
Walter's on his way to WWE, so that was unexpected. Surprises all around. I can't wait till this next match with Cedric. It's going to be a good one.
It's been a good night all around. I think we surprised some people in terms of the number of people we've had here. The crowd has been big here this evening.
Like Tommy Richards said, it's been on fire.
Yeah. I think the problem they're going to have here is they're going to find a bigger bar now.
That's right.
It's a good problem to have. Busting at the seams is a good problem.
When you sell too many tickets, that's always a good problem.
Absolutely.
All right, so we got one more match and we'll do a wrap-up after that. Thanks, guys. Unleashed is done. We've seen a couple of title changes here this evening. Most recently here with the WrestleForce title. We got a new champion, Cedric Alexander, first two-time champion in WrestleForce history.
Tremendous match. We say that all night long for talking about this whole card. that thing topped it all.
Yeah, that was an incredible match. Cedric and Caleb, unbelievable.
But Caleb Konley was robbed. He did hit him with the chain.
That's right.
That's true.
He did hit him with the chain.
He should have won. He hit him with the chain. Referee didn't see it, but Cedric, he kicked out, man. It was crazy.
You know, it's like we had said though, about any time those two guys get in the ring, they're going to see at least a 4-star match. You can guarantee that.
Yep, tear the house down, tear the roof off. Good match. Good show all around, top to bottom.
And I think this is probably one of the bigger crowds that I've seen in a WrestleForce show as well, in terms of total number of people here. So
yeah, it was the most I've seen here in ever. So I hope they can keep it up.
Yeah. Fun night all around. Appreciate you guys for joining me. We'll do it again next time.
Thank you.
All right. I'm a little hoarse, as you can tell, but I usually am after shows like this. That's a wrap on WrestleForce Unleashed. Had a fun time. Appreciate Billy and K-Dog participating here this evening. We might have something here, but we'll see where it goes. Like I say, this is episode 1 of what will hopefully be a recurring series. Not sure how often it will be, but we'll see what happens. Had 2 new champions there. Cedric Alexander, your new WrestleForce heavyweight champion, or WrestleForce champion. And then the Bravado Brothers are your new WrestleForce tag team champions. And with that, we send a fond farewell to Stephen the Fever Walters. He will be joining the ranks of the trainees down in NXT here shortly, I believe. But it was a kind of bittersweet thing to see a talent like him go somewhere else. But he's going to get paid. So that's a good thing there, and it's a great opportunity for him. But had a big crowd out here. I'd say, oh gosh, it's hard to tell in there. At least 150, if not more. A lot of them left after a couple of the matches. It's about, I'd say it's in the area of, let's see. Yeah, it's almost 10:15 as I'm saying this here now. So pretty long show, about right at 3 hours. But overall, plenty of good things here happened tonight. Good show overall. Few little things here and there that could have been improved, but WrestleForce, they do a good show. They've got some good things going here now. They've got another show coming up in about 2 weeks. It's Spring Fling for them at I think it's one of the bars in 5 Points. I'm not quite sure, but you can look on @WrestleForce, their Twitter profile. Facebook is the same thing, Facebook/WrestleForce, to get them. Yeah, I think that's going to about do it for us, though. Rasslin with Redbeard, episode 1 in the can. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back next time.